Welcome to another episode of Intentionally Disturbing with Dr. Leslie. Today's special guest is me. Aren't you lucky?
Oh, hey, you're here.
I actually think I should take a break and explain to you who I am professionally because I know I joke around a lot on social media. I mean, the satire is ripe to the point where people don't even know if I'm actually a psychologist. Um, but I am. Yeah, I am. I did a bachelor's degree at Colorado State University, and I went there when I was 18 years old. Uh, I loved it. I absolutely love Colorado. I wanted to be a veterinarian, but it was so hard. The science was so difficult, and they were really discouraging, which was surprising to me. Um, well, it just didn't click too. It felt like a real uphill battle to get through like pre-med, pre-vet classes. But when I got into psychology classes, I finally realized that it didn't feel like an uphill battle. It felt like how I already thought, and it gave me language for the world I was already experiencing. I had already spent my life feeling like the black sheep. I spent my life feeling like adults were sweeping things under the rug. And I didn't understand why they weren't authentic, why they weren't transparent, why they couldn't just tell the truth. Now, I don't know, was I raised around a bunch of fucking liars? Maybe. But I think most adults, most people I see in therapy don't have the capacity to know themselves, don't have a full identity, and also don't want to dig for it. They struggle to find that identity, and it's really hard work to do it. But early on, I had strong morals and I really wanted things the way that I wanted them. And as my dad says, I was unstoppable and I would be on a mission to get what I wanted. And I always got it and it always worked out because I fought, because I educated myself, because I worked my fucking ass off for these things. So Colorado State was great. Didn't get the best grades. Halfway through Colorado State, I did a study abroad program in Northern England, University of Leicester, where the dorms are actually castles. Amazing, beautiful. I loved it. And some of the best Indian food ever. The chicken korma to die. Oh my God, I loved it. I should have probably realized then that I had celiac disease, but whatever. I learned that the hard way over time. So I loved that. But that's when I had all these surgeries and I had to come back to America for the surgeries, but I also had to come back because I had to finish my math and my science because you can't do all of it in a foreign country. You have to finish it if you want the American degree. So while I was finishing all of that in Colorado, the only school I had applied to was the University of London, University College London, for a master's degree in Freudian psychoanalysis and dream interpretation. Yes, that's really what it was. Uh, and so once I was all healed up from my surgeries, that was the only school I had gotten into. I really wanted to do it. My boyfriend at the time had actually dumped me while I was in the hospital in California. Nice. So I just went solo. I went to London, and I should say I didn't actually get in. It was the only one I had applied to. Um, I got rejected. Yeah, I still went on a one-way flight, knowing it was going to be a $60,000 a year if I stayed. And their master's is like 12 months or 18 months, so a little more than a year, but not quite the full 2 years like in America. Uh, and I said, I don't have anywhere to go. I need a place to live. I found actually what we would call Section 8 housing, and I shared it with this Italian woman. I got the master bedroom, and she stayed in the family room. She also let me know that I was horrible at cleaning, and I never cleaned the way that she liked cleaning. So, but she taught me to cook really well, which is amazing. And I started going to classes. I started my master's degree. They let me in provisionally, and they really appreciated me. I did well. I really liked the content. I loved traveling around. Living in England gives you access to so many countries and so many amazing, beautiful places and experiences. It was amazing. I loved it. Um, I had a tough time with friendships because, English people aren't very welcoming, and especially to Americans. But I made some friends and things worked out. I was actually a barmaid for a while. I can pour a Guinness like nobody's business. And people would come in just to hear me say their name because of my California vocal fry accent, I guess. It's just very much like how they see like celebrities and California people, I guess, on TV. So, anyways, that worked. I wanted to do a doctorate, but it was a 5-year wait list, and I wasn't going to wait 5 years. So I applied to Loma Linda University in Southern California. Now, I fully recognize that Loma Linda is a very Christian university. It is also one of the best medical hospitals in the world. It is incredible. Now, I was raised atheist, which is for a different video. I need to have my dad on where we just hash out religion. Um, I was raised atheist, but I always felt like I really, really wanted to have faith. I wanted to have spirituality, but it never clicked for me. I could never really believe it. And I still have such a limitation. I still have a barrier in my mind. When I struggle, like when I had my son and he almost died and he was in the NICU for months, being emergency intubated, his lungs wouldn't contract. It's his birthday today. He's 4. He made it. But I prayed. I don't know who I was praying to. I don't know what I was doing. And I realized that I was only praying because I was in distress. And like, I don't pray or say, thank you, God, or anything when I'm happy. So I'm still very confused by all of that. But what that school did for me was it took away my judgment of religion, the negative judgment. It made me step back and really see and understand why people have faith, why people have spirituality, and what people do with religion, more so what religion can do to people. I thought it was an incredible experience. I also focused on forensic psychology. So, my first job was in the Los Angeles County Jail, which was extremely dangerous and just overall insane. People just could not believe that I was doing that. And I sought it out as my first gig. Um, and then I slowly moved into specializing in sex offenders, in pedophiles, and rapists, uh, necrophilia. I mean, mass raping. I can tell you the mind of a predator. I can tell you that when you are returning your shopping cart, someone might be watching, and I can tell you what they're thinking, and they might have been watching for a while. And no matter what you do, they're keeping that in their mind, and they're using that to decide how they're going to approach you, if they are going to approach you, if they are going to harm you, or if they're going to leave you alone. So when I say I don't return my shopping cart in that stupid ass viral TikTok video, I don't return my shopping cart back all the way to where it needs to be if my kids are in the car, if my groceries are in the car, because then I look like a vulnerable victim to the predator. I look like somebody who is taking a social norm over the safety of my body and my children's body and my car. I, to them, look vulnerable. That is a point of target for a predator. And that applies to so many other situations in life. If they think that you aren't fully alert, if you aren't going to just choose what is the most right, the most sacred, the most direct decision, then they can use that to their advantage and take advantage of you. So that's a little bit about my career. And I wanted to kind of throw that out there because, I want to talk about horrible things that have happened throughout that in my personal life while still doing all of this education and getting through it. And then we'll dive in later into what it really is like to work in jails and prisons. But a lot of the trauma with my colostomy, a lot of the trauma with becoming infertile and, you know, not being able to have successful IVF treatments after 8 times, that all was through school, and that was all at the beginning of my career. Oops, commercial time. I want to talk about some big things that happened in my life. And I think there are things that you can probably relate to, especially women, but husbands too. We often forget about the husbands. So I want to talk about how I almost died, had a colostomy, learned that I was infertile, and then almost died again during IVF when I was working in a prison because they had it out for me. Uh, so let's run through that. Yeah, I had a colostomy. I had what was a normal tumor on my ovary, and I had it removed when I was living in England. Now, you can't trust every doctor, you can't trust every surgeon. You want to, but it didn't go well. It was removed, but it grew back quickly, and I had to fly back to California. And in doing so, I had surgery in California, and she found that there was gauze, there was stuff in there that the surgeon had left in there. Pretty disturbing. So she had a bit of a mess to clean up. She said she was successful in doing so. But it took several days to find out that I was actually septic, and I went into a coma. And I was in the hospital for months. I had to have a colostomy. It was one of the most horrifying moments of my entire life. It was the first time I thought about ending my life. Being in your early 20s with a colostomy, nobody tells you things like, if you put olive oil in the bag, it helps the fecal matter slide out faster. Nobody tells you that it farts and you can't control it. But over time, you would learn to control it because you could push on parts of your intestines. Lovely. Luckily, I had it reversed, and I was one of the fastest reversal cases. And they talk about it in medical school to this day because they were surprised by it. So I'm just happy that stage was over. One of the most horrible things, too, was that nobody helped me. Like when I was in the hospital, there was no psychologist, there was no mental health care. The only person that came in was a social worker, and she gave me a handout for dating with colostomies. Dating with colostomies. I wanted to end my life. This was not me. I was not going to be somebody who shit out of her belly button practically for the rest of my life. Like, no. Oh my God. Hello, medical care, mental health, behavioral health within hospitals. You suck and you need major improvement. Anyway, so after that, I had staples in my stomach, but I had to finish school, and I went back to school with staples in my stomach, and I got it done. And whatever, we get things done. Let's make sure this microphone's on because I don't do this much. So I got it done, and I had a really successful educational experience. I finished a bachelor's, I got 2 masters, and I got a doctorate in psychology, in clinical and forensic psychology, with an emphasis in high risk sex offending. And it took me all the way to working at Atascadero State Hospital, which is a maximum security prison. So if you can imagine 1,200 inmates or patients, free roaming, they're on the honor system. So you get to leave your unit. Each unit has 30 to 50 guys in it. The rooms are not locked. And they have cards 1 through 5. So if you're not good, if you're really unstable, or if you're violent, or you're not following rules, then you would get card number 1, which meant you couldn't leave the unit. If you were doing a little better, your behavioral health team, which was psychologists, psychiatrists, nurses, everybody on the floor would meet and say, okay, we're thinking about giving him a 2. That means the guy can leave the unit and go to one place like the mall. The mall was a group where we had, it looked like a mall. All the group therapy was there. So you could have art therapy, talk therapy, music therapy, all these different things. You could go there if you were good, and then you'd return. So it was actually a very, very dangerous place. I wore an alarm on my hip. Alarms went off all day, every day. There were violent episodes all day, every day. And during that time, my husband, he was my boyfriend, engaged, fiance, and then we married while we were working in that system. And we had different last names because we didn't want anyone to find out that we were together. And we had heard so many stories about inmates attacking one spouse or another spouse. Either they were infatuated, in love, stalking one spouse, and they wanted to hurt the other. Either it was a delusion, it wasn't even real. Sometimes it was real. Sometimes staff were getting it on with clients. Uh, but also there were serious injuries to individuals out of retaliation. So if somebody made a decision about your care that you didn't like, they might retaliate and hurt your spouse. So we went this whole time, I thought, with no one knowing that we were together. And so we were together, right? We had done all the good stuff. We had gotten licensed as psychologists, and now it was time to try to have a baby. And it's not working, right? His sperm count's good. Everything seems good, but it's not working. I'm not getting pregnant. I'm not even having miscarriages, like just nothing's happening. So we get all this fertility treatment done. And what they realize is that there's scarring to my fallopian tubes because of the sepsis back when I had the colostomy. So I couldn't have a baby. They did that dye test where they stick the blue dye up your fallopian tubes and it stopped halfway through, which meant that we couldn't do IUI. We couldn't do anything. We had to just do straight up IVF fertility treatment, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And that is what you'll see in a future episode. That is when my dad came and he really helped us financially with fertility treatment because we weren't in a place to pay for it. And he said the sweetest thing I think I've ever heard. He said, "Don't worry, honey, we'll get you that baby." And he did. He helped, and we have two beautiful kids now. But it was utterly terrifying going through fertility treatment. I mean, you've got to basically go on birth control, you've got to shut down your system, and then you've got to amp it up. So you are like building basically grapes, a whole bunch of grapes on each ovary, and hoping that they are just going to grow perfectly and that your hormones are just so perfect. You're going to the doctor constantly. You're taking shots every morning, every night. Some are like, the nice shots that are just under the skin, but some are deep shots in your butt. And when my husband would have to do them into like my glute, if he hit, like, I don't even know what it's called, a vein, he hit something and blood would squirt out, he would pass out. It was horrible, but I couldn't do it myself because of the angle. Anyways, we got it done. So we did this several times. And the problem was that you're supposed to have this perfect grouping of eggs to release, and you have a surgery and the doctor goes in with a needle and pulls out each egg. So 24 hours before that, you take a trigger shot and it kind of makes them into the biggest, most just the perfect egg that the doctor would want to take out. And then they would fertilize in a petri dish. I don't know what they do there. So I would get so excited, and this is 6 months, months and months getting to the egg retrieval. And I'd get there and I'd go into surgery and he would put the ultrasound on me, in me or whatever, and they'd all be deflated. They'd all be dead. Every egg was dead. And it was horrifying. I can't even tell you the sobbing, the tears, the money, the just thinking all I want is a child, seeing everyone I know around me get pregnant and being jealous and mad at them. I wasn't happy. Every time I got a baby shower invite, I didn't want to go. I didn't want to go. And I didn't know how to say no. I wish I had said no. I wish I had said no and set boundaries for my own mental health at that time. I didn't. I've learned a lot since then. So we actually ended up going to an adoption attorney in Santa Barbara, and it was a grim picture. It was basically like, if you want the type of baby that you want, then, like a healthy baby, you're going to have to let the biological mom be a part of the picture in a private adoption. She's going to be more likely to pick you, to put you and your husband at the top of the list if she knows she can keep tabs on the baby over time and throughout life. And I don't know, it just didn't sit with me. Like, I wanted my own kid. I didn't wanna share my kid. I wanted my own. So, my husband and I got shit-faced drunk that night because we were just so upset. We went to see Jerry Seinfeld. Jerry, if you're watching this, thank you. We came back to the hotel and we had lots of sex. And there you go. Magically, we conceived our first child. I have no idea how. The doctors have no idea how. The nursing staff, everybody, when I went in for an ultrasound and said, I think I'm pregnant, but it's not from IVF, utter shock. But they say medical miracles come in three. So hopefully there were two other women that got to have that too. I gotta get paid commercial time. So we had our daughter, and it was absolutely amazing. But the weirdest thing for me was that while that was all happening, I didn't tell anyone at the prison. I didn't tell anyone in the jail. And there was this one day where I had just found out I was pregnant. And this was the real one. This was the one that was going to stick. And a very psychopathic, high-ranking gang member who I trusted because we had worked together for a long time and we had done each other favors. So, he would tell me when there was going to be a hit on a staff member, and I might make sure he has a new mattress or an extra blanket. And you kind of learn to work with the more psychopathic individuals in that way because they'll work with you. And that's the level of respect that you need. And I need to respect him in that way. They're not going to be emotional individuals, they're not going to be empathic. It's tit for tat. And that's what we got. Anyway, so because he respected me, because I was the person who, I honored that relationship that we had, he asked me to go into the visiting center, which is weird. Again, like I said, this is a free roaming facility. We've got 1,200 inmates or patients. We have about 2,000 staff, and people are walking, if they're good, back and forth throughout. And it is huge. It's miles and miles long. I still get panicked, not full panic attacks, but I get really panicky when I'm in long, hollow hallways because it reminds me of those eerie moments when I was in these prisons and jails and hospitals and there was just silence and then extreme fucking violence. I mean, like when a psychotic man begins to punch someone, their arms look like the Roadrunner. They come alive. It is so fast. You can't even get in there to stop it. You're not going to make it. And the amount of times I would walk down the hallway and somebody would run by and just cold cock a person I was walking next to. I was lucky enough that never happened to me, knock on wood, but it was utterly terrifying. So I still have major anxiety. Like if I go into a mall and it's really empty and it's like a long hallway and I can't see an exit, I have to ground myself. I have to seriously ground myself, breathe, and sometimes I just need to leave. So all of this was happening, and this guy asked me to meet in the visiting center, and I meet with him, and he says to me, "This is the last time you're going into the hospital because a bunch of the guys are taking bets on kicking your belly and killing your baby." I had just found out I was pregnant. I barely knew. This was failed IVF. The doctors didn't even know how this had happened. How did they know? I mean, sure, I was bloated from ongoing fertility treatment. I did it 8 times, but they had someone on the outside. And we just aired an episode with Jeremy Viking, who used to be an inmate, and he was the first one who told me, he said, I don't think that the inmates had someone on the outside. I think the custody officers do. The officers were following you. The officers were probably the ones that told the inmates that. And for some reason, someone had some kind of gripe against you. That to me is terrifying. So I go from almost dying from a colostomy to probably almost dying if they had really had their way with me. Um, and I had seen people in there, broken necks, broken faces, taken away in stretchers, day in and day out. I mean, you're talking about the most violent individuals in our country, and they have severe mental illness, and a lot of them are not medicated properly, or they're refusing medication, or they're cheeking their medication, they're putting it in the side of the cheek and then throwing it out or selling it. And I was amongst that. So went from nearly dying to nearly dying. Anyways, that was the last time I went in because I believed him. And I've gotten some messages. I've been on TV, and I'll get some random phone calls from somebody who's connected to him that says, great job, keep going. It's such a weird relationship. I don't know how he gets my phone number. But anyways, I carry a gun everywhere I go, just an FYI. Yeah. But I wanted to share that story with you because it was incredibly fucking hard. All of it. The tears, the pain, the money, the loss of hope, the desire to have a child, to not even be able to explain to people how much I wanted a child, but I couldn't have one. Oh, and to be like 8 fucking months pregnant and have some stupid bitch ask me what my exercise routine is. And I said, it's nothing. And she said, I was doing marathons when I was 8 months pregnant. Well, you can fuck off. Watch what you say to pregnant women because we are already so insecure and we are already terrified that we are growing this little person inside us and we are terrified that something is going to fuck it up or harm this baby. Just watch what you say. My God. I hope you can relate to that story because life throws you very unexpected things. But now that beautiful baby is 8 years old. She is the wittiest, most hilarious child. She has no filter, just like me. And she is truly my best friend in the entire world. And I cannot wait until she is old enough to watch this episode and just see how much mommy loves her and adores her, and how much mommy and daddy and grandpa fought for her. Thank you for watching another episode of Intentionally Disturbing. We'll hop back to interviewing incredible people, and then maybe I'll hop back to doing solo episodes and sharing more stories because God knows, watching people rip their eyeballs out, watching brain matter squirt out of somebody's pocket where they had hidden it because they had taken it out of somebody's brain, having pee and poo thrown all over me in prisons. A lot of fun, exciting things have happened. But I look forward to you joining this journey of amazing people and their resiliency. And I'll share personal stories of my own and the resiliency that I have, and the ways I have used psychology, the ways I have used life lessons and my education to get me to where I am now, which is 42 years old with 2 awesome kids, an amazing husband, an awesome career, and maybe a little hypervigilant.